Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 481 of the Unpopular podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular podcast, I'm not only asked to agree with me, I'm asking you to hear me out. It's been a while. It's been a while, man. Had a lot of personal things going on, which is why you haven't seen me for a while. But I appreciate everyone that has reached out, everyone that has asked about my whereabouts. I appreciate all of you guys. Yeah. I'm a little rusty. Man. But we're going to get through it. I also want to appreciate everyone that stayed, When you don't see someone or hear someone for as long as I was gone, which was about a month, people fall by the wayside. And I get it. Out of sight, out of mind. You got your life. A lot of people don't know me personally. I get it, man. I'm not saying you need to stay loyal. No. But I do appreciate everyone that still, TikTok went away and came back. People that's still on the TikTok, people on the YouTube that still comment how wrong my takes are, which we will address some of those today. Today is going to be just a recap day. Not a recap of what's been happening personally, but there has been a lot of things that went on in the month of January. Obviously, when you guys are hearing this, it's February 1st. I just want to talk briefly. This is going to be the recap episode, So if you don't care about listening to a couple things, obviously the description always has the timestamps. You're going to see what I'm talking about. If you don't want to hear it, I get it. I respect it. But I wasn't able to talk about it seeing as though I was gone. And I'm not going to talk about them all in depth seeing as though they already happened. But this is going to be the recap day. And where I want to start this episode is with where we are in college athletics. Now, I'm not saying we're in a bad place. I think when people broach this conversation, when people start this conversation, it always sounds like, and it always feels like we're in a bad place. I need to talk about the state of boxing. We need to talk about the state of the NBA. We need to talk about the state of the NFL. When you hear that statement, it always feels like there's negativity. And honestly, while I'm not going to say always and never, a lot of times when people have those conversations, it is about something negative. And while I don't think that we are in a negative place when we talk about college athletics, I do think that we're in a different place. And you saw that with the national championship. Ohio State beating Notre Dame in the national championship. I think it was 34-23. Now, this conversation isn't solely on Ohio State and winning the national championship. That's obviously the cherry on top. I think it goes to the whole season and how Ohio State went from where they were in the beginning of the season to ultimately where they ended up, and how where we are today in college athletics, mainly talking about football right now, we are seeing I'm not going to say dangers, I'm not going to say negative anything. We're seeing the impact of NIL. We're seeing the impact of, if you have the resources, you are going to have the players. That's how the world is. If you have the resources to pay your employees to get a better contract, to get a better deal, you're going to go with that deal. And that is probably when people say that there's parity in college football, college basketball, while there is, I don't think it's as much as people project it to be. And Ohio State is the clear example of that. If you go to a bigger school, if you are a bigger school, you are going to have more resources. That's obvious. And nothing wrong with that, but that's just is what it is. A Ohio State is going to have more resources than a Marshall. Alabama is going to have more resources than a UTEP. Oregon is going to have more resources than, let's say, a Montana State. That's just how it's going to be. That doesn't mean a UTEP, a Montana State, those schools can't get a big name player, but they have. It's almost. I'm not gonna say impossible, but it's more difficult, I'll say, for them to get it than an Ohio State. So when they say that there's parity, while to a certain extent, yes, I agree. But that's not necessarily the case. Going into last season, who was the projected favorite to win the college football playoffs? It wasn't Oregon. It wasn't Georgia. It wasn't Alabama. It was Ohio State. And why is that? Not because it's the great Ohio. No. It's because they had some of the most profitable NIL deals attached to their school. Which is why you saw the litany of players transfer to Ohio State, stay at Ohio State, go to Ohio State. We all know I'm an Oregon fan. And I had my gripes about how the college football 12-team playoff landed for the number one team going into the playoffs at the time. I didn't think it was fair. I think that there were tweaks that needs to happen. And I think that there should be more of a reward winning the number one seed. But in all intents and purposes, the 12-team college football playoff worked not to perfection, but worked. The desired goal of the NCAA was met with the 12-team college football playoffs. It brought excitement. To a certain extent, there was upset. There was intrigue. And as much as people say they love parity, as much as people say that they want somebody new, a powerhouse won the 12-team playoff in Ohio State. Revenue-wise, viewership-wise, I think that it would have benefited. It did benefit the college football playoffs more than Ohio State and a Notre Dame played outside of, let's say, a SMU and a Tennessee. While Tennessee is a bigger school, you have two of, I'll say, the 5 largest fan bases in college football right now in Notre Dame and Ohio State. So it landed perfectly. But when you look at it, those are also two of, I'll say, the top 10 teams that had the most NIL money going into college football. In fact, most outside of, I think, Bama, most of the teams that had the most NIL money going into the season was in the 12-team college football playoffs. Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame. I think Tennessee was in there. Again, we all know that I am a Oregon fan. And I'll be honest with you. Because for people that know me, they know that I'm a diehard homer, right? And I'm from Maryland, D.C. area. So obviously, I love my Capitals. I love the Commanders. I love the Wizards, even though it's been tough sledding for the Wizards. Uh, Mystics, shouts out to them. I love my home team, and my dad's side of the family is from North Carolina. So my favorite team is the North Carolina Tar Heels. The team that I love more than any other team is the North Carolina Tar Heels, who is also going through a rough patch this season. We'll see how they go against Duke, but this is probably one of the first times in a while I do not have faith that the North Carolina Tar Heels are going to beat the other team in Carolina. So people ask, why am I an Oregon fan? And I'm going to keep it simple with you. People may not admit this, but I'm going to admit this. I'm an Oregon fan, football, not really basketball. I'm an Oregon football fan because of the jerseys. The jerseys got me. The jerseys got me. I like the jerseys. So because of that, and once I was younger and I was able to really start forming my allegiances and my alliances when it comes to these sports teams, the Oregon jerseys caught on to me. And I was just like, yo, those jerseys are tough. And then you had people like LeGarrette Blount and LaMichael James and Kenyon Barner and obviously Marcus Mariota. I was like, you know what? I'm an Oregon fan. So obviously I wanted Oregon to win the national championship, and I felt some type of way when they got the rare end of the stick when we talk about the college football playoffs. But I think I said, I don't know, I just went on that tangent, guys. I'm sorry. I'm a little rusty. I haven't podcasted in almost a month. But I think I said all that to say this. This 12-team college football playoff should have showed you that while there is some type of parity, which there is, you see an SMU make it, you see Arizona State get the 4th seed. There is some type of parity. Indiana makes it, and all of them had incredible seasons. Clemson made it. But the ending, the championship, should have showed you that while there is parity, money still rules sports. Money still rules college athletics. And if you have more NIL assets than another team, you are going to have a better. Look, people were trying to kill Ohio State and kill Ryan Day for losing to Michigan and losing to Oregon at Oregon. And while Oregon, I'm not saying Oregon is trash. Michigan didn't have the best season, even though they did beat Alabama in the bowl game. The team that most people thought going into this the college football season last year or this year is the one that won. And it's not because every other team was weak. It's because they had some of the most NIL opportunities attached to their school, which means it brought players that maybe could or should have went somewhere else if there was more opportunity. So parity is a very interesting thing, and it brings on a very interesting conversation. Yes, there is an ounce of parity, but when we talk about the grand scheme of things, the powerhouses are always going to be the powerhouses because they always are going to have more resources than the lower level team. I'm not even going to say lower level, than teams that may not have the same amount of resources and same amount of donors, same amount of NIL deals backing them. And you saw that with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes for winning the national championship. And while I'm not saying you shouldn't be shocked, and I'm not saying that just because they were the preseason number one, you shouldn't necessarily always think is going to be the case, but we should not be shocked that with all this parity going on that has been talked about, a powerhouse school yet again wins the national championship. So congratulations to them. I said that this was a very this was a very interesting month. Let me talk about my feelings, and let's switch over to the NFL, I believe. Let me talk about my feelings now that the season is officially over for my Washington Commanders. The what I've heard a lot since Washington ultimately made it to the NFC Championship, which was a shock to most people, including myself. I'm not going to sit here and say I went into the season thinking that we would be a game away from the Super Bowl. Pleasantly shocked, but shocked nonetheless. The sentiment that people are saying, the thing that I'm hearing a lot is we should be grateful, or we should be okay with making it to the NFC Championship, then ultimately losing to the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, we went into Tampa Bay and beat Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. Then we went into Detroit and beat the number one team in the NFC this year in the Detroit Lions. And then we went into Philadelphia and ultimately lost 55-23. Now, before we say anything, actually, let me finish the thought. All that is true to an extent. I am proud of my Washington Commanders. I did not expect us to be as good as we were. I did not expect. I knew Jaden Daniels was going to have a good season. I didn't think that he was going to arguably have the greatest season a rookie quarterback has ever had. So, talk about wave my pom-poms for the team. Shouts out to the Commanders. All of that is true. I didn't expect that. And it did happen. And I am happy that my team exceeded expectations catastrophically. Catastrophically is a negative word. Exceeded expectation to the umpteenth power. Let's say that. We were much better than advertised. So, in that sense, I am happy. I think that it really, if you need to know, if you want to know the importance and why almost every year the MVP goes to a quarterback, the Washington Commanders should be the poster child to how important it is to have a quarterback. There's a different feeling in the Washington, Maryland area because they have the quarterback of the future. And it's not just the quarterback of the future because he's a good player. Let me take you guys behind the curtain for a second, because there's a conversation that I heard and I've heard all year, and only people that were in Maryland or that are Commanders fans or at the time were Redskins fans. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but I'm trying to paint a picture. People are saying, how is there a different feeling between Jaden Daniels' first year and RG3's first year? For people that don't know, RG3 had an incredible first year as the Redskins football quarterback. He won the offensive rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, and it felt like we could turn the corner. It felt like this could be the time where Washington gets back to their winning roots when we had RG3. And while, yes, that is true to a certain extent, I think people that are fans of the Washington football team or fans of Washington understands there was always a yeah, but feeling with RG3. Maybe it was the lengthy history of injuries that he had even in college in Baylor. Now, yes, he did win a Heisman in Baylor, so shouts out to him, but he did have an injury history. Maybe it was the fact that there's more than just being talented at the quarterback position, especially when you're viewed as the franchise guy. That word, the franchise, means something. It means that you have to represent the organization the best way possible. You have to, when organization looks at you, or let me say this, when they look at the organization, the first thing they think of is usually you. If you want an example, we're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens a little bit later and give you my feelings and how I felt at the game. But when we talk about, when you think of the Baltimore Ravens, the first thing you think of, if we talk about a player, is Lamar Jackson. He is the franchise player. The Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. The Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. If you want to go to any other sport, let's go to baseball. The Yankees, right now, current Yankees, Aaron Judge. The Dodgers, currently right now, Shohei Ohtani. If you want to go to basketball, the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry. Oklahoma City Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. These are franchise players. They were entrusted or are entrusted to turn the franchise around or put the franchise into position to be as good as it can be, and they're the face of the franchise. And RG3 didn't do a great job at that. Now, he didn't have any off-field issues. He wasn't rude to fans, but he didn't have the best relationship with the organization. He didn't have the best relationship with the media, and obviously the media is the one that kind of shapes the narrative. And on top of that, as great as RG3 was, outside of that first year, there wasn't much winning attached to how great RG3 was. Now, yes, you can also say that it was attached to the injuries, but if you really look at the injuries, not all injuries are built equal. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of injuries that are preventable. Maybe if you put yourself in position not to get injured, it's easier said than done, obviously, but a lot of RG3's injuries felt preventable. Whether you slide, whether you take just get down, whether you just throw the ball away, a lot of the injuries were preventable. And every time he got hurt, it was just lengthy periods of being out, lengthy periods of being out. And then you rush back. If people don't remember, he rushed back and he shouldn't have, and he just was terrible. So while RG3 was the face of the organization, when we talk about the Redskins, he didn't represent the organization in the way that was maybe presented to the fan base his first year, obviously winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, outplaying Andrew Luck. And he was never. It never felt like. He never felt like he was inaugurated into Washington culture. That is such a different feeling with Jaden Daniels. He seems like a kid that walked into an organization that is starving for relevancy, that is starving for something positive. When you get out of the Dan Snyder era, you're searching for something that you can positively wrap your arms around. And Jaden Daniels, it feels like he embraced that, on top of being an incredible player. So I said all that to say, there's a different feeling with Jaden Daniels, and that is why it just feels like Jaden Daniels has, not only is he just a good person from what it seems like, I don't know him personally, it seems like he's a good person, but he also feels like he has wrapped his arms around the Washington franchise. And it didn't seem like RG3 did the same thing, especially after year one. But back to the point. I was asking myself why, if all that is true, I'm excited, I'm happy for the future. I am over the moon in the fact that Washington played above and beyond any expectation that I and a lot of fans had. Why I was so distraught about losing in the NFC Championship. I was down bad. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to talk to my family. That was probably one time I was really glad that I didn't have to come podcast, because I didn't know what to say. I was just livid. I was broken. All that is true. Jaden Daniels did have arguably the greatest rookie year ever from an offensive player. And I'm excited about the future of a team that hasn't been relevant seemingly since the 1991-92 season when they won the Super Bowl. Here's my thing. This is going to sound crazy, because even hearing myself say it in my head sounds crazy. The reason why I was so upset with the NFC Championship is simple. When you're playing against a team that in all metrics has proven to be better than you all year, has probably the best roster in football, is this record-wise the second best team in your conference, has an MVP candidate in Saquon Barkley, has a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in Jalen Carter, and overall is just projected to be much better than you. This is going to sound crazy, but it's true. While the final score was 55-23, it did not feel like Washington was ever out of it until the fourth quarter. And what frustrated me the most is Washington had their chances, but when you give a team that has all of the things that I just listed, when you give them extra opportunity after extra opportunity, meeting turnover after turnover after turnover, you're going to lose. With that was the theme. We're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens and Bills game in a second, but that was the theme of the playoffs this year. If you look at all the teams, right, that you thought had a shot, or not even you thought had a shot, that had a shot, 9 times out of 10, outside of a few games, or maybe outside of 1 or 2 games, the thing that has been the definitive difference between both teams is the turnover differential. Washington goes into Detroit, and Jared Goff decides to have one of his worst games of the season. We remember the 4 interceptions game that he had against Houston. Well, he said, hold my beer, and I think had 3 or 4 interceptions against Washington. I don't care what you're projected. I don't care where you are. If you keep giving a team more opportunity, especially in the playoffs, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose. And there was Washington turned the ball over 4 times. I don't really count the last one because it was Jaden Daniels trying anything, and Quinyon Mitchell had an incredible interception in the end zone over Terry McLaurin. But when Austin Eckler turns the ball over, when McNichols turns the ball over, when De'Ami Brown turns the ball over, and then on top of that, Philly scores a touchdown every time. That's 21 points. There was a point in the game, I think it was the fourth quarter, that if you took away those 3 points, or you took away those 3 interceptions, and Washington had 23 at the time, the score would have been 23-27. And Washington had the ball. Now, yes, obviously, if things could have went differently, Washington may or may not have scored. What I'm saying is the feeling of the game would have been different instead of it being, 48-23. Interceptions, turnovers kill. It killed Washington. It killed Detroit. That's just what happens. So, no. As a logical Washington fan, even going in, I was happy for my team and I wanted my team to win. But I knew that it was going to be an uphill battle, especially when you see the holes that Washington has. And the holes that Washington has, the Philadelphia Eagles excels in. And we even saw that during the game. Saquon Barkley rushing for 118 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts throwing for 246 yards when he hasn't been throwing the ball well. Damn, Jalen Hurts had 3 rushing touchdowns as well. And a passing touchdown. So Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley combined for 7 touchdowns. But the thing that irritated me the most is, even with all that, we still had a shot. And from a veteran-laden team, a team that has Bobby Wagner, a team that has Zach Ertz, a team that has Terry McLaurin, a team that has Austin Eckler, a team that has Dante Fowler, a team that has Marshawn Lattimore, a team that has all these veterans. It felt like the person that had the most poise, the person that responded to the situation at hand, was the rookie in Jaden Daniels. He was by far the best player on the Washington field, or on the field for Washington the entire game, which does bring happiness to the future. But in the moment, I'm like, there's a difference between losing by 32, and it and they just whooped us. It'd be different if we didn't have the turnovers. If we just lost by 30, we're like, yeah, we didn't even deserve to be there. It is what it is. Shake your hand, keep it moving. But the fact that you lose by that and you gave them 21, even in this, bro, you take 21 points from 51, the score is 23-34. That's a much different feeling than 23-55. So, yeah, man. While I'm happy, especially someone that this is the first time. Obviously, I was born in 1994. I wasn't born in 91, 92. I've never seen my team in the NFC Championship, let alone the Super Bowl. So, I don't know. And as we've seen with teams like the Rams, with teams like the Bengals, with teams like the Jaguars, you never know when you're going to get it back. I hope the future looks really bright with Jaden Daniels, and Washington has some of the most cap space going into the offseason, so we'll see. But, yeah, we will see. But I was distraught. But on the flip side of that coin, damn, no, I got to talk about another NFC East team. On the flip side of that coin, this is and has been the best team, at least in the NFC, all year. I think they started off sketchy, and obviously people was calling for Nick Sirianni's job. Jalen Hurts has been nursing an injury seemingly all year. But this has been the best team, at least in the NFC, all year. A lot of it is health as well. I think outside of the turnovers, that's the biggest reason why the Detroit Lions didn't advance. At a certain point, we can't keep talking about the laundry list of injuries that a team suffers and it not affect them in some way. Now, I thought that it was going to affect them against the Vikings, but the Vikings is just a whole nother conversation. I've never seen a person, oh boy, in a span of 2 weeks, the viewpoint of them changed drastically. In 2 weeks, Sam Darnold went from a franchise cornerstone, at least being seen as a possible franchise cornerstone, to I don't know what we're going to do. I don't even know if we want to take a chance on him. That's crazy. But Philly, I went into this, a lot of people went into this saying that they have the best roster in football, and they proved it. They can beat you in so many facets. That's why I was shocked. I was appalled. I was disappointed. Every negative synonym you can have for shocked, I was when Saquon Barkley, when the Giants allowed Saquon Barkley not just to leave for nothing, but to leave and go to Philly. Like, what do we do? Philly has arguably the best offensive line in football. They have arguably one of the best defensive lines in football. One of the best secondaries now, which is crazy because last year they were god-awful. They have one of the most elite weapons crew in football. Whether we talk about A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. It's like, I think what I wanted to do, I heard I heard two statements. One of them was more of a conversation, but I heard two statements, or I heard a statement and then I heard a conversation. The statement was there's going to be Ryan Clark said it. Now he was talking about the AFC, so he didn't say it exactly like I'm going to say it, but I'm paraphrasing. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to eventually find their way into Canton, meaning they will be Hall of Famers that may never win a Super Bowl. Now, Ryan Clark shaped it as the AFC, and we'll talk about them in a second, but the other conversation was talking about Jalen Hurts. And the question is Jalen, if the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl, should and could we consider Jalen Hurts a Hall of Famer? Now you're probably thinking, what the hell, Hall of Famer? He has so much left in his career, which I agree with. But there are some people that if they stop today, if they didn't play another down of football, young people, they're Hall of Famers. Patrick Mahomes, for sure, is a Hall of Famer. Lamar Jackson, for sure, is a Hall of Famer. Justin Jefferson, for sure, is a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. And now, obviously, there are other ones like Aaron Rodgers and I think Russell Wilson, but we're talking about the younger players. I think Jamar Chase, he just got the Triple Crown, for sure, a Hall of Famer. There are some people that maybe that I would lean towards yes, but there are still arguments like Josh Allen, incredible season, incredible player, but I don't know. It's going to be crazy that if things shape out the way we'll talk about in a second. But I was looking at Jalen Hurts was on the was in the conversation, and I think he is a perfect example of resumes don't lie, stats don't lie, accolades don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story. Because if he does essentially win a Super Bowl this year, which he has a good shot, he will be going to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, as the better team. Maybe not the best player, but as the better team. Jalen Hurts would be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I don't see how now, obviously, we don't know what happened in the Super Bowl, and I'm not going to give my Super Bowl predictions yet. I'm going to give it closer to the game. But I don't see how people keep saying, oh, they're definitely going to give the Super Bowl MVP to Jalen Hurts. I don't see how you see how this offense is constructed, and it's not going to go to Saquon Barkley, but he'll have a Super Bowl. He's an all-pro player, Pro Bowler. He has the resume, but he's also played on stacked teams. Like, remember, the Eagles team that went to the Super Bowl, 2 years ago, was an historic defense. Like, they were by far, in the record books, one of the greatest constructed defenses we've ever seen. This year, they have one of the best, most ferocious defenses we've ever seen. So I'm not going to go. I think if he wins, he will be on track. But I don't think that he could, if he stopped. Like, I think if Lamar Jackson stopped right now, he's a Hall of Famer. 2, possibly 3-time MVP. Even though he's never been to the Super Bowl. I don't know too many 3-time MVPs, 2-time MVPs is not in the Hall of Fame in any sport. So, yeah. congratulations to the Eagles for beating Washington. And like I said, I'm not going to give my predictions until later or until closer to the Super Bowl. Speaking of Super Bowl and teams that are not going to be in it, let me talk about the Baltimore Ravens for a second. Trust me, I'm not going to stay on this long. There's a lot of things that you could pinpoint to why Baltimore not only is not playing in the Super Bowl, but didn't play in the AFC Championship. Yes, you can point to Mark Andrews dropping the game-tying 2-point conversion at the end of the game. You can also point to Mark Andrews fumbling the ball in the fourth quarter. Or Mark Andrews dropping a very critical play in the, I think, first or second quarter. Or Derrick Henry dropping a very clutch catch. I think it was in the second quarter. Or, yet again, for another year, shockingly, Baltimore went away from the run sooner than they should have. All that is true. And if you want to pinpoint one of those things, or Lamar Jackson throwing an interception and on the very next possession fumbling the ball, yes, you can. I wouldn't say you are wrong in any sense of the word. You can have it. If you want to put the loss on Lamar, if you want to put the loss on Mark Andrews, if you want to put the loss on Todd Monken, if you want to put the loss on John Harbaugh, cool. I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong. I'm just saying cool. But I don't know if you guys remember. I think I've come to the realization that Baltimore is my second team. Obviously, my first team is always going to be Washington, no matter how bad we are, no matter how good we are. Washington is always going to be my first team. But I think my second team that I root for, probably due to proximity to where I'm from, and I like Lamar Jackson, I think Baltimore is my second team. I think I've been fighting it for a while, but I think this year I've just accepted it. But even with that, I don't know if you guys remember, but early this season, or I think it was early on in the season, or midway through the season, I said something. And what I said was, I have lost faith in Baltimore this year, even with them being as dynamic and incredible as they are. I've lost faith in Baltimore because of the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. This is yet another year where Baltimore has the team to compete for a Super Bowl. But this is yet another year where we see Baltimore lose in the final game of their season due to self-inflicted wounds. I don't think that there is a team in the National Football League that beats themselves more than Lamar Jackson. More than the Baltimore Ravens. You can talk about how great Lamar Jackson was the second half, which he was. But he still had the first half, and he still had an interception. He still had a fumble. I thought, you bring on Derrick Henry. He has the season that he has. Almost rushed for 2,000 yards. I'm thinking, you bring him for the Super Bowl. For the playoffs. So they can't abandon the run because you have somebody as great as Derrick Henry. What the? They abandon the run again against the Buffalo Bills. The stat is if Derrick Henry rushes for more than 20 rushes, like if he gets more than 20 carries a game, I think they're undefeated. The man had 16 carries against Buffalo, a team that is their weakest point is rush defense. It's defense in general, pass defense, rush defense. I'm not saying they're trash, but man, 16 carries for 84 yards. I thought that we would see a repeat of what Baltimore did to Pittsburgh just a week before, where they just said, hey, Pittsburgh, we don't care how vaunted your defense is. We're going to run every time. I think they rushed 50 times as a team. You could have done that against the Buffalo Bills, even if it did. You wear them down till the fourth quarter to the point where Buffalo is a light team on the defense. Like they're not, they don't have big guys. So that didn't happen. What I'm saying is this. I think Lamar Jackson is probably going to win his third MVP. And shouts out to him, well deserved. I'm a little shocked that Josh Allen's not going to win it, but seeing as though how much they hyped up Josh Allen all year. But I think they both had incredible seasons, and I think the consensus is Lamar Jackson's going to win his third. I think they had an incredible season. I think that moving forward, of course, we have to see what happens this offseason. We'll talk about a story that has come up towards the end. But I think that going into the season next year, Baltimore will have a roster to compete for a Super Bowl. I think that Lamar Jackson, especially with them extending Todd Monken, will have yet another great season. Maybe not as prolific as this year, but I think he'll have a great season. I think Derrick Henry will have an incredible season again. Baltimore will look eerily similar to this year in the sense of I think that they have some pieces that they have to figure out. Ronnie Staley being one of them, their star offensive lineman. But they have an opportunity to be right in the position to win a Super Bowl. But they are a see it to believe. They have found themselves on a see it to believe it basis with me. Because, like I said, every single year it feels like they do something to beat themselves. And that was on full display in the AFC Championship. On the road, might I add, in frigid temperatures against the Buffalo Bills. Speaking of those Buffalo Bills, and I kind of talked about it and brushed on it before. It goes back to what Ryan Clark said. There's going to be multiple people. I think the exact quote was, there's going to be a bunch of AFC quarterbacks that will be wearing gold jackets, but not be in a Super Bowl or not have a Super Bowl win because of Patrick Mahomes. I do think that there hasn't been this much talent at the quarterback position ever in the NFL at the same time. Meaning there's been talent. Don't get me wrong. We've had Drew Brees. We've had Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady. But I'm talking about the widespread amount of talent at the quarterback position, from Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. There is a litany of talent at the quarterback position. Jordan Love, you know, but there's one Patrick Mahomes. It goes back to we had this conversation a while ago. Do you know how many talented Hall of Fame players didn't win or even touch an NBA Finals because of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls? Like, think about it, man. Patrick Ewing. Now, obviously, he went to NBA Finals and he lost. But Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller, Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, Penny Hardaway. There has been some great players that have never won a championship. A lot of it is because Jordan was just as dominant as he was. Charles Barkley. So that's how it's gonna. I think that Josh Allen, you can argue. I think is inarguable. He's the second or third best quarterback in the league. I would say third. I think Lamar Jackson has proven to be better, but he has not proven that in the playoffs. And Josh Allen at least has proven. But there's only one Patrick Mahomes, man. And you saw that against the Buffalo Bills. Here's the thing. You can talk about the refs. You can talk, and I do think that, I mean, it's still a business. We'll talk about the whole business aspect of sports in a second, but it's still a business. And what would be more entertaining? And I'm not saying that anything is rigged. I'm just asking you, what do you think would be more entertaining? What do you think would bring more revenue? If we had a Buffalo Bills and Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl, or we had a Kansas City Chiefs Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes, with Travis Kelce, with the whole Taylor Swift undertone, the three-peat dynasty sealer at stake, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying anything is rigged. I'm just saying what I am actually saying is this. This goes with the playoffs in general. This goes with Washington against the Eagles, Baltimore against Buffalo, Buffalo against Kansas City Chiefs. Hell, we saw this with the Chiefs and the Texans. When you are in the playoffs and you're playing a giant, because at this point, not all playoff teams are giants, but the Baltimore Ravens is considered a giant, right? The Buffalo Bills are considered a giant. The Kansas City Chiefs considered a giant. The Philadelphia Eagles considered a giant. The Detroit Lions this year considered a giant. When you're playing against a giant, the margin of error slims significantly. And as we saw in almost every loss, except for the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs, not only do you have to play better than that giant, but you cannot have self-inflicted wounds because they are magnified. You can't turn the ball over 4 times if you're the Detroit Lions against the Washington Commanders. Yeah, you may be a better team, but you're giving a team that is in the playoffs more opportunities. If you're Washington, you can't turn the ball over 3-4 times because you're playing a giant in the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to capitalize, which they did every time. If you're the Baltimore Ravens, you can't turn the ball over 3 times against a Buffalo Bills because they will slay you. If you're Buffalo, and it may seem like, Josh Allen is 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. You have to minimize the errors, and you have to make the plays. Because as we've seen, one person is going to make the plays. I think that there was a stat going around that there's only one player in the NFL history that is perfect in game-winning or game-tying drives in the playoffs in NFL history. 7-0. It's Patrick Mahomes. You can't have step, man. Again, you can say it's the refs. Cool. And I do think that the refs play a big part. But I'm not going to say it's rigged. What I will say is some of those mistakes, and it's not just on Josh Allen, it's on the entire franchise, man. Like from the coaching to the defense to Dalton Kincaid dropping the pass at the end, to missed blocks, to allowing Patrick Mahomes to have the first game of his career where he rushes for 2 touchdowns. And it's not like no tush push. It is legit rushes. Mistakes are magnified, and there is not a team, at least that we've seen so far in this league, that capitalizes more on mistakes than the Kansas City Chiefs. So while I think Buffalo was great and had a great season, shouts out to James Conner, they had a great season. They beat the Ravens. I think this is just yet another year where Josh Allen didn't do enough. And this Buffalo Bills team as a whole, Sean McDermott as the coach, who they've had a great year, but you didn't do enough. So, again, we have the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to give my Super Bowl predictions until a little bit later, but yeah. Let me move forward and let's talk about All-Star. The All-Star teams have been announced. The West, you have Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Shea, Gilgeous-Alexander, and Jokic as the starters. In the reserves, you have Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, James Harden, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jalen Williams, Alfred Şengün, and Victor Wembanyama. And for the East, you have Giannis, Jalen Brunson, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns as starters. And on the bench, you have, or reserves, you have Jaylen Brown, Pascal Siakam, Cade Cunningham, Damian Lillard, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Tyler Hero. Now, there's always 2 conversations that are always prompted with the All-Star roster, and that is who was snubbed and did they get it right? I think I don't really have a problem with any of them. I think people can argue about Pascal, people can argue about Evan Mobley, but I think that they've had incredible seasons. And excuse me. And on the West, I don't know. I mean, there are some people, like you can argue Norman Powell has been great for the Clippers, even though they did give it to James Harden. But the person, the reason why I guess we're talking about this briefly is because of Trae Young and how Trae Young continues to find himself on that snub list. Now, yes, Trae Young has been an All-Star, but I think most of the time he's been an All-Star is because somebody got injured and they needed to replace him. There are other people like LaMelo Ball. I'm shocked he didn't make it. I may have put him over someone like maybe Darius Garland. I'm a little shocked that the Cavaliers got 3, even though they have had a great season. I'm a little shocked that they had 3 players representing them in the playoff. I mean, in the All-Star game. I may have maybe switched out Darius Garland for LaMelo Ball, but I don't know what it is, but the league just has something. Because the coaches, I wouldn't expect the fans to like. There's not one there's not one All-Star starter that I think Trae Young would start over. He doesn't have more fans, and he hasn't had a better season than Jalen Brunson. Definitely not Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. Their team is just better. Giannis, come on, he's one of the most popular players in the league, and Karl Anthony Towns, the Knicks. So it's really the coaches that represent the reserves, and I just don't know. Somebody just does not like Trae Young, man. It's just he keeps getting he gets left off of Team USA. He gets left off yearly for the All-Star game. Now, yes, granted, the All-Star game isn't what it used to be, but All-Star weekend isn't what it used to be, and yeah. I think all of the quote unquote star festivities, not all of them, but I mean, if you look at the Pro Bowl going on right now, or the skills, it's the Pro Bowl games. It's a bad watch, but I do not know what Trae Young did, man. They do not like that guy. I don't know, man. But yeah, I don't really see. Yeah, again, LaMelo Ball, Norman Powell, maybe Sabonis. I think you can argue should have been Sabonis over Alfred Şengün, but the Rockets have been. I think they're the second in the West right now, so I don't. I'm happy with. I don't really have any issue. I just need to. I do not understand what Trae Young did to these people. That's all I'm saying. I was gonna talk about Jimmy Butler. I'll talk about him for a second, because last time we talked, he got suspended twice, 3 times. He got suspended. Last time we talked, he was suspended. Then he got suspended because he missed a team flight, which apparently he does on a regular basis. He usually flies by himself, but because things are a little rocky right now. And then the final straw, I guess, is when he came back to the team for a practice and found out that Highsmith was starting over him. Then he walks out. Then he gets suspended indefinitely. Remember, all of this is predicated on Jimmy Butler wanting an extension. It's all about money. I understand. I may not like the way either side is dealing with this, which I don't. If you're Jimmy Butler, you sign the contract, just play it out, and play yourself into more money. Because what you're doing, you're essentially losing money, and you're fighting for more money. So, but I also don't like how the Heat are playing it. It's like, are you going to fine him or are you going to suspend him? That's 2 different things, because they're fining and suspending. And on top of that, like, Miami is not the destination that people think it is as far as basketball. this is a player-driven league, and if you don't have the players, like Miami was great 4 times in my life. It was when they had Alonzo Mourning for a brief period of time. It was when they had Shaq and Kate or D Wade. It's when they had D Wade and LeBron James and Chris Bosh, and then they had Jimmy Butler. Outside of that, why do you think not a lot of free agents flock to South Beach? Like, I don't know, man. It's just a messy situation. That now, yeah, Jimmy Butler does have a history of blowing stuff up before he leaves, obviously. And for that, I may not like, but I understand both sides. She's kind of dealing with the same thing that Klay Thompson dealt with in Golden State, just handling it very differently. In basketball, a lot of times you're paid for what you've done instead of what you will do. And Jimmy Butler is 35. So, and if he wants a max extension, I don't know how great he's going to be. And Jimmy Butler also does this to himself. And this is why we have the conversation a lot about, is the regular season important? And we understand that there's a regular season Jimmy Butler and a postseason Jimmy Butler. Well, I understand postseason Jimmy Butler is the only person or is the only ammo that Jimmy Butler has. It's like, I led you to 2 championships. While, yes, we didn't win them, I led you to the 2020 NBA Finals, and I led you to 2023 NBA Finals against the Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. That's the only, because regular season Jimmy Butler just be BS. Like, I'm not gonna say BS, but he don't be caring. So I don't know how this. I think I said it before. I was wrong, and I'll say it again. I think we've seen the last of Jimmy Butler in a Heat jersey for sure. I don't think he's coming back. So we will see. I want to give a shout out to Unrivaled. It started when I was away. And here's what it is, man. I say this with everything. When we talk about something new, when we talk about something like All-Star Weekend, when we talk about something like the Pro Bowl games, nothing can succeed if the people that you're expecting or the people that you're depending on to take it seriously don't. And I think that has been the beautiful thing about Unrivaled. Unrivaled is a new thing. It's new. But what we've noticed is that the players that do and play in the Unrivaled have taken it extremely seriously. Now, I think the owners or majority owners is Nafisa Collier, Breonna Stewart, and a bunch of different players or a bunch of different people. But this would not, how do I say this? Nobody would care about this if the players didn't care. But you're seeing game after game the intensity. These players want this to succeed, and the women that are playing in Unrivaled understand that it's only going to last. It's only going to be a viable league if they take it seriously, and they've taken it seriously from everyone that's participated. Nafisa Collier's been playing, Breonna Stewart, Kalea Copper, Alisa Gray, Alyssa Thomas, like Angel Reese. It has been an incredible watch. And it's been that way because the players are taking it seriously. If the players took the All-Star game seriously anymore, an All-Star weekend, it wouldn't be on its last. It wouldn't feel like it's on its last leg. If players cared so much about the Pro Bowl, you wouldn't see players like Lamar Jackson, damn near the whole Ravens team, say, "Nah, we ain't playing," or Josh Allen say, "Nah, I ain't playing." It's so important for the future, the current and the future of Unrivaled, that the players play hard, that the players take it seriously, that the players understand that the success of the league is on my back. And what has been such a beautiful thing, and what I am congratulating Unrivaled, because it's been a great product so far, that is because the players understand that with it being in its infancy state, it's only going to succeed if they take it seriously. So shouts out to them. I'm gonna wait. I was gonna talk about the trade, the WNBA trade with the Sparks and the Aces and the Storm. I'm gonna wait on that. Alyssa Thomas I'm gonna wait on that. But where I'm gonna end this episode, because this is the unpopular topic of the day, which I'm not even gonna call it that now. I'm just gonna talk. Justin Tucker. For a long time beloved Baltimore Raven, arguably the greatest kicker in NFL history. There have been some allegations that has fallen upon his name in the sexual side, dealing with massage therapists and massage parlors. I'm not going to go into detail about what it is, what's been accused. But I will say this. I am going to withhold judgment until more comes out. The same exact thing I did with Deshaun Watson. I'm going to hold out my feelings. I'm going to hold out what I think, because I'm going to presume innocence until found guilty. Justin Tucker, has come out and equivocally denied the allegations. What's damning is the report. I think it's the Baltimore Banner. The report has identified 6 women. The report says none of the women knew each other, but they all have strikingly similar stories. And I think this was between like 2012 and 2019. And it is, yeah. I'm going to hold out judgment until we find out more, but it is nasty work from what is being reported. I will say that. And if what is being said is true, it could be curtains for Justin Tucker. But I don't know. We will see. I pray for all people that are involved. And I'm not going to. I know that there's people that have dealt with things like this in the past, so I'm not going to divulge really any information. You guys can look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah. We'll see. And there you have it. That's been today's episode of the Popular Podcast. Again, I appreciate everyone that has reached out asking if I'm okay, to see what's going on. I'm back to the usually scheduled program. I had due to personal situations, I had to take a break for a month. And it was the longest month in the world, I tell you that. But I appreciate you guys, and I am back. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for the people that stuck around, and I thank you for the new people that we're bringing. If you want an Unpopular podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach as many subscribers as I can. I'm getting back on the reels. I'm getting back on the, obviously, episodes. I'm getting back on the clips. So if you like the content, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. I promise you episodes moving forward are going to be about more current things. Again, I was gone for a month, so I just wanted to have this be the recap episode. But please follow the YouTube channel. It means a lot. Also, for all my DSP listeners, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, I haven't forgotten about you. You guys are uber important as well. Please subscribe. It means so much that you want to hear my luxurious voice. Again, if you like the content, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, please follow the socials. Shouts out to my social media manager, Brittany. She was the one that kept the socials going for the month I was gone. I didn't even, not once was I able to go on to the Instagram, and she was holding it down. So shouts out to her. But I'm back. Please follow the Instagram, follow TikTok. If you still have TikTok, apparently when I was gone, TikTok went down and came back. Hey, it is what it is. But yeah, for reels, stories, clips, follow the Instagram, follow TikTok. It means a lot. Again, I appreciate you guys. Until next time, much love.